Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today we're diving into a to-back or not to-back, going through a variety of campaigns over on Kickstarter and on Gamefound. If you are a Patreon, apologies last week, my Unfair and Unbalanced series, I had some tech issues and it unfortunately did not end up going up last week. Rest assured, it will hopefully, I guess hopefully is the right word. Hopefully it'll be an Unfair and Unbalanced this week. It's been a bad week for technical issues. I deleted a whole bunch of videos, had to refilm some stuff. It's been a fun week. This is an exception. Usually things are not this chaotic. But before we dive into all of that, as usual, starting off with our Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is a segment where we take a look at a currently available game, so you don't have to wait on crowdfunding, pay whatever crowdfunding price is, wait a year and a half, wonder if it is or isn't good. But over on Miniature Market, they currently have DC Comics deck building game Injustice Gods Among Us. This was a campaign that you were able to get this amongst other games within the DC deck building universe from Cryptosaic. And now, if this game is something you're looking for, if it is well, to your fancy and all that stuff, and you don't need all the bling and the $200 all-in and all that stuff, we have DC Justice, a DC Comics deck building game, Injustice Gods Among Us, over on Miniature Market for $33.99. Now, before we dive into the crowdfunding campaigns, the usual reminder that I am CMO of Gamefound. I work for Gamefound. Take that into account as we go through this video. I have been doing the to-back or not-to-back series for 3 years before I took a job at Gamefound, but nonetheless, take that into account as we continue to go through these campaigns. And with that, let's start off with the first one, which is a Gamefound campaign, The Lab from Flyos Games. These first few are in the not yet funding category, and the lab over here is $6,600 Canadian out of a $10,000 goal. This is a card-based game from Flyos Games, which is not their usual jam quite as much. Well, I guess they actually have a variety. They have a variety. I take it back. They have a variety of different products and all that stuff, different games. But the lab is going to be a card-based game of trying to basically play various diseases and trying to be mindful of your complications and infections, so you don't ultimately die while you help and aid the other players as you go through lots of card play going on, some fun art, all of those things going on in this 3 to 6 player game. I believe it's a 3 to 6 player game, I think, if I recall correctly. But yeah, this one's currently not funding, not yet sure how it will do. It's crossed the halfway threshold, 11 days to go. It may creep over the finish line, it may not, I'm not entirely sure, but that's the lab over here. The price point for this one comes in at $39 Canadian for the game. That might be part of the struggle. I just think in general that a $40 price point on a card-based game is sometimes a harder sell. We actually have another one later on in this video, although there's always the Radlands. Radlands is a game that I was very critical of the $40 price point around a small game, and that one is one that actually is, well, very good. But either way, that's the lab over here, over on Gamefound. And then moving on to the next one we have over here, Board Games on My Mind, books on game design by Adam Kopinski, designer of so many games. But this one, design of Nemesis, Frostpunk, Lords of Ragnarok, all those different things. But this one has 250 backers, 4,400 euro raised out of a 5,000 euro goal. It almost certainly will fund. I highly recommend watching the video on this one, by the way. If you are in any way interested in board game design, I think the video on its own does a decent job of selling the book, of why you should be interested, why you should want it. This may be something that's good, entertaining reading just on your own, because why not? It may be something that's only good for you if you are Lords of Hellas. I said Lords of Ragnarok. Lords of Hellas, my bad. But it might be something that you're only interested if you are interested in game design. But in general, if you are someone who's interested in game design, looking for resources from people who have been along the road is almost always a good thing. It's not to say you have to take into account everything someone says, but having that wealth of information, that wealth of ideas, will save you so much time, effort, and energy along the way. We'll actually have something else coming up as well later this month, in like a week or two. We're gonna have another thing coming up. But there's so many resources out there for someone who's interested in creating a board game, and this is one more to add to your list of things to pay attention to. Even the 5 reasons to back. You have the book, the author, the priority, the prototype, the community, all of this stuff over here. That's gonna be again, Board Games on My Mind from Adam Kopinski. Then from there we have over here, moving on from there, we have Conquest Princess Fashion is Power from Fight in a Box Games. Another one that's not yet funding, 131 backers, $20,000 raised out of a $37,000 goal. This one may well cross the finish line. I certainly hope it does. This is one I've had a chance to play. There's a playthrough of my channel. There's a review of my channel. I really enjoyed this game and I recommend it a lot, although I do think price point is a factor here. At the end of the day, this is one of those things, so let's go talk about the game first, then the price point. But Conquest Princess Fashion is Power. It's a game for 1 to 4 players where you'll be controlling a host of crew as they try to go through a variety of scenarios, making their way through space, and the various different encounters you're going to have over here, and trying to figure out the right combination, this cooperative experience of how to work together to ultimately survive and not have your ship go up in flames along the way. It is tight, it is brutal, it is very well done. Actually, I love the quote they chose for me over here. Bad, it's bad things. I love this game. I'm excited to dive back in. I really enjoy this game. Highly recommend it. I think it's fantastic. Lots of ways over here to upgrade your experience as well, including like these, where are they? Where are these bases over here? There's some light up bases. Lights of opulent extravagance over here. A bunch of bases that will clip onto your characters and light them up for when they have their magical transformation in the game. That's just like all kinds of fun over here. But they have a variety of other things as well, from art, from a mat of unusual size. I am very curious about this one, by the way. The board is in general, like one of the things about the game is the board can be overwhelming and large. I'm curious what the mat of unusual size is like over there, as well as some of the other games over here if you want the quadruple threat game bundle, and then the fashion and pets pack. A whole bunch of different things you can get as you go through this game. And they are also squishy and sparkly. It's not high fashion, it's not covered in glitter. Make the goo cubes and power cubes a little bit squishy and a little bit sparkly. That is intriguing to me. I am curious about that. But either way, that's going to be Conquest Princess Fashion is Power. Over here, the Fashion Hunter Pledge coming at $75, and then it can go up from there as you try to get all-ins or the various extras or all those things, which is why, like, the Titan over here is $214 for a whole lot of game over here, and it's an excellent game. It is an excellent game. It is expensive at the end of the day, which is why I think this might be having a slightly harder time funding. I highly recommend this one if you like cooperative experience, if you like experiences like The Loop or whatnot. The Loop is the one game I keep comparing this to. At the end of the day, this game feels very similar to The Loop, to Unsettled, to games that you're trying to puzzle out how to survive against a overwhelming onslaught of different factors being thrown in your face. That is going to be Conquest Princess Fashion is Power. Great game. That's going to be on Gamefound, and that is, well, that's that. Which means we move to the update category. The update category, we only have really one over here, which is Endeavor Deep Sea. I'm not going to heavily go into this one because I've actually covered this game twice already. I had the crowdfunding campaign as well as the update, although you might be a little confused because the crowdfunding campaign was over on Gamefound. Endeavor Deep Sea launched over on Gamefound, continued to fund, but they launched a follow-up, collect additional late pledge campaign over on Kickstarter with 516 backers. $33,000 raised so far. 43 hours to go. By the time you watch this one, in fact, by the time you watch this one, I think you still have this Sunday, Monday. I think this will still be going by the time the video goes up. But if it isn't, I apologize. I think it's still going. It's going for a few short hours after this video goes up. But either way, I think it's either way. Sorry, I'm losing track of time here. Anyways, Endeavor Deep Sea over on Kickstarter. This is basically another opportunity. It's the same basic game. Anything they unlock here is going to be there for any Gamefound backers, all of that. I'm not going to heavily go into the game. It's the same campaign. It's the same exact thing. It's just over on Kickstarter to collect additional pledges, which begs the question that's going to be very interesting to see, which is, does this become the new normal or not? Because this is actually outside the scope of this video, which is not the point over here. But there is a whole interesting conversation about the idea of trying to tap into both audiences, and if you launch on one platform, you enlist a few backers on one. If you launch on the other, you enlist a few backers on the other. Do you want to try to launch on both to try to get all those backers? Because I've seen people commenting and talking about this, and I understand the conversation in both ways, because you can argue it both ways. On the one hand, it's like, it's not in the spirit of crowdfunding. On the other hand, you're leaving literal money on the table, and what you're doing is not hurting anyone along the way. Which means it may end up being a conversation around what various platforms actually allow their creators to do. That's outside the scope of this video. I'm very intrigued to see what happens next, but I don't actually know what will happen next in terms of the greater crowdfunding ecosystem and relaunch campaigns testing out other platforms. But either way, that's Endeavor Deep Sea, currently on Kickstarter, and very, very little time left to go, assuming I tracked this correctly. Which means from there we move to the new campaign, starting off with Into the Godsgrave. Into the Godsgrave from Lucky Duck Games, 1,800 backers, $195,000 raised, 11 days to go. No God Stays Dead Forever. This is the newest app-driven game system from Lucky Duck Games, and it's one that I've had a chance to play through and really enjoy. You can check out my playthrough, you can check out my first impressions. Definitely a first impressions, not a review, because they didn't have multiple scenarios. They only had the one scenario to go through, so I have 1.5 plays under my belt. Half a play as I started playing through the game, and then the other play is because I stopped because I wanted to film it and wanted to go through it and enjoy it, so I filmed it instead. Although there is that awkward part where I thought I could kill something that had 10 armor because I missed the fact that they had 10 armor and I totally didn't kill them. I lost the scenario anyway. It didn't matter. But either way, that's Into the Godsgrave over here is an app-driven experience. An app-driven experience that has been compared to almost a cross between Destinies and the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. Although it's been a long time since I played Journeys of the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, it definitely has some semantic, it definitely has some similarities from what I recall. The thing that I don't know is I don't remember liking Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. I remember specifically not liking it, and Into the Godsgrave I very much enjoyed. So I don't know whether that's my taste changing over the years. I'd be inclined to think it is, except for the fact that I still don't like Mansions of Madness despite having given that another shot. Although I am kind of liking Descent. So I don't know. maybe I'm just wildly inconsistent with when and where a game system with an app is something I enjoy or not. I don't know. I'd have to dive into Lord of the Rings again. I'm willing to do so, honestly. It's been long enough. I kind of want to see where I stand on that one. But what I do know is Into the Godsgrave was overall a very enjoyable experience with the one scenario I played through, and there's a whole lot of other things going on that I didn't even get a chance to go through in terms of the exploration system. The fact that the app actually randomizes some elements, which I didn't even know as I was going through it. The app randomizes some elements, so even if you're playing the same scenario again, you'll have different ways as far as how the enemies encounter, where things are, so it's not going to be the exact same experience, and you can't walk into it expecting the exact same experience for that replayability aspect. There's also going to be building your deck between rounds, a whole bunch of miniatures, a bunch of scenarios to go through, and a whole lot of campaign over here. There's a lot of campaign to go through, starting off with $86 for the basic pledge, and then going up for $129 for the expanded, $182 for the collector's pledge. But let's go scroll down so we can go through it over here. This is going to be an app-driven game, like I said already. It's going to have the app managing a bunch of elements from the various story interactions, from the enemies, things like that, tracking their health, stuff like that, while you take care of a lot of the other elements on the table in front of you. There's a lot of deck building, deck management, hand management as you go through the game, drawing cards and using those cards for multiple different purposes, spending your money, your resources to actually buy and place those cards, or alternatively discarding them for various abilities to add extra dice to the various skill tests you go through it. Lots of fun things going. Again, check out my review, or first impressions I should say, if you want to go through that. But over here we have a lot of Lucky Duck exclusive content as well that's going to be available. So some of this stuff will be available in retail, as you can typically expect from a Lucky Duck game. Some of the expansions will be available in retail, as you can expect, and then some will have limited availability, only available on exclusives, conventions. Well, here we go. All content marked as Lucky Duck exclusive will be available during the campaign, Pledge Manager, and then afterward only via our online store, preferred retail partners, or special promotions. That's going to be what we have over there. We have priority delivery. You'll enjoy a game ahead of them arriving in stores, so we'll see that as well. And then what's it all about? The Divine Playground. This is going to be, well, there's a whole backstory here. I'm not going heavily into all these various things. I don't want to read through all those texts, but, you know, this is the whole, like, you know, choose your hero. Plan every turn carefully. I actually kind of like this whole system of the plan card. It defines how much movement you have, how many cards you draw, how many resources you get, as well as the special ability in play for the round, and you have to choose what your plan is for the round. I kind of enjoy that aspect as well. Explore the world, fight off monsters, complete your objective, claim your prize, game on, all that stuff. The app drives the fights, it remembers your choices, which is a big thing as well, and then it boosts replayability through that randomization aspect. So you can see a gameplay video over here, impressions and reviews, all those things. Let's keep scrolling down. Where are we? So core game content, 400 cards, 36 models, 160 tokens, lots of like item cards, hero cards. Each hero has their own unique deck, but you're also going to have the ability to add other cards to be able to kind of have a mix of neutral cards and your hero's cards in the system. We'll have the various miniatures, the 4 heroes, the 29 enemies, and then the 3 big boss miniatures, the dice over here, which look very cool, and then we have tokens and all that stuff. And then from there, we go into the Forgotten Song expansion, the Favor of the Gods mechanic. Over here, we have the expansion content for this, just again, more cards, more characters, more dice, the 12 map tiles, the miniatures, the various, the enemy miniatures, the boss miniature. That is a fun little boss miniature. I do like that boss miniature. Then we have Godsgrave, the Ultimate Trial. Again, more content for the game, expansion content, cards, miniatures. I like that miniature too. It's not a bad miniature. Then scrolling down from there, we have the Trickster class pack, the expansion content, more hero cards, more class card, class token, the Trickster, again, just more stuff. The Noble class pack, you can see, but let's keep scrolling through this. Here we go. Here are the main pledge levels. We have the Godsgrave base game as well as the Untold Stories expansion. Then for €120 over here, we have the Into the Godsgrave base game, the Forgotten Song, the Untold Stories stretch package. And then for €169, saving $27, you get basically every €27, I should say. You get all of that stuff over here for the game. So as far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? Oh, and then we have, oh no, we have metal tokens, we have plastic markers, we have all these things, Anyways, as far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? It's always a little hard to say with Lucky Duck Games experiences. Some of them have done tremendously well in the secondhand market, some of them not as much, and sometimes it comes down to the demand and availability and all of that, because sometimes their games, you know, it's interesting. Going through the games, they've had a wide variety of what takes and what doesn't, because a lot of the games are available at retail, but they also have some exclusive content that is hard to otherwise get your hands on, but then they sometimes sell those things as well as giving you discounts and sales and online, which again affects that whole conversation. I think Into the Godsgrave will likely do fine, especially initially, and I think this game will be well liked. I very much enjoyed this game, and I think that I am somebody who's a little bit more not always as sold on app-driven experiences. I think this is very much, if you like Destinies and you're looking for a Destinies adjacent experience that is more cooperative focus, then I think you'll really enjoy Into the Godsgrave. I'd say if you like Lord of the Rings Journey to Middle-earth, then you'll like it, but again, I didn't like one, but I did like the other, so I'm not quite as certain over there. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see in that one, but I think this game will be overall very well received. I'm looking forward to diving into it and playing through the entire thing. I think it's well, the entire thing is relative. There's the base game entire thing, and then there's all the additional content entire thing, and I don't know exactly how far my like extends to. 1.5 plays does not a full review make. But either way, into the Godsgrave. So yeah, I think as far as holding its value, I think it's possibly mixing this one. If you want to save money and be conservative, just wait for retail, get it on sale when you have a chance, possibly get some sort of discount or wait for the second market. If you don't need it all, you will definitely save money by waiting down the road. On the other hand, if you do want to get it, I think there's a decent chance it'll hold its value, at least initially, and I think it is a good game that will have a strong aftermarket presence and demand. It's always tricky again, like sometimes the pitch of capturing someone's attention with your Kickstarter game and all that is a little harder, especially when you combine price point and app driven and uncertainty. So I don't know exactly where it'll go, but I think it's not the worst back no matter what you do. And again, if you want to save money though, wait for retail. Past that, moving on to the next one, we have Assault on Assassin. I don't know, I said Assault. I said Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice Apocalypse. $276,000 raised, 1,800 backers, 12 days to go. This is the expansion to Assassin's Creed, taking place in, well, I guess the jungle somewhere? Where is it taking place? I'm not entirely sure it's taking place, but taking place somewhere different. It's jungle areas. But either way, by the way, I really like how this campaign page is organized. For the record, they have this whole 1, 2, 3 showing you what kind of where you are, what's going on, what to expect as you go through it. Really enjoy that. But speaking of which, we have various testimonials and stuff like that. They're rating from the game, what's new in this Kickstarter, just showing you again what is the new situation, what are you getting here as you go through this game over here, because they have a few things in this Kickstarter campaign. They have the original campaign if you want that, but they also have the Apocalypse expansion, they have all-ins, they have a bunch of things as far as ways and how you can spend your money over here. But the Apocalypse expansion is going to be giving you more campaign content for Assassin's Creed. So if you like Assassin's Creed, if you finish the campaign, if you want something different, this will give it to you. And it replaces the headquarters phase with a map-driven exploration phase, which I think is a large enhancement and improvement to the game. The other aspects I think are a little more semantic, not major differences in new cars, new equipment, new various character cards and all those things you go through it, some small changes, a few danger tokens. There are other things, but I think the biggest impact is the change from the headquarters phase to the exploration phase, which I think is a very, very good change. We have this giant thing that you're going to be jumping off of, which the tower's cooler. That's the flip side. The Brotherhood of Venice setting, for me personally, I much prefer the setting. I think the tower's cooler. I think the general art is more in line with the Assassin situation, but from a pure mechanics perspective, I very much enjoy that Apocalypse is giving you more Assassin's Creed content, but with a better exploratory system. But over here we have a lot of things going on. We have the free miniatures doing the crowdfunding campaign, the exclusive content, limited availability, all those things over here, pledges and add-ons. So we have $96 for the game over here. That's going to give you the base game for this. Also, if you're wondering over here, the original Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice did have a retail edition eventually that was more standee driven. They have in the FAQ, is there going to be a standee driven version of this, retail expansion and all that? And they said that, hey, it depends on future partners. My guess is yes. My guess is that they will, but it's certainly not a guarantee, and it might depend on how well the Kickstarter actually does. But it might depend on the partners, the Kickstarter, all those things. But again, if you want to save money, the safest thing to do is to just wait for that, hope for the best, and see how things go. But past that, additional question that's worth covering is if you have the retail edition of the Brotherhood of Venice, is this compatible with that? And the short answer is yes. Apocalypse is going to be utilizing multiple components from the original Assassin's Creed game, but that's going to be the same components whether or not you use the retail or the Kickstarter version. You will have access to those components, so either way, you're fine and covered to go on that. Then from there, we have the $296, which is going to give you the original Brotherhood of Venice, the towers, the Assassin's Creed Apocalypse, all of those things together, giving you the, both together. And then lastly, we have the $473, which gives you the all-in from the last Kickstarter campaign. Everything, both towers, all the expansions, all of those things. But it is going to run you $473, which is a whole lot of money to jump into this game, especially if you're not quite sure on it. And then they have add-ons in case you want to pick and choose your various bundles. Like I believe, if I recall correctly, Creed vs. Crows is the... One of them is rated not as well. I don't remember exactly which one, but they're all rated pretty decently overall. And we have the language pack, we have the Assassin's Creed. Just now I'm just showing you miniatures and stuff in the base game. But that's everything Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed, which I didn't even talk about the game, is a stealth-based system based on the V Commando / V Sabotage system from Tritonor. And it takes that system and it applies the Assassin's Creed overlay to it. You're going to be making stealth checks, you're going to be wandering around trying to accomplish goals, and eventually, once you do accomplish your goals, hoping to set off the alarm not too early. Like, you really want to delay when the alarm goes off, but eventually the alarm will go off, and then it's up to you to try to figure out how you can actually escape, unscathed as much as possible as you go through it. It's a challenging system that has a degree of luck, a degree of management, a lot of upgrading and equipment and development as you go through the game, with a whole lot of fun behind it. It's a very well-rated system that I recommend, that multiple channels recommend, that BGG recommends, all of those things as you go through that, and that is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. As far as should you back or should you not, will hold its value. Hard to say 100% of this one. The original campaign, if you look through the sold, if you look through the marketplace listings on the original campaign, they are all over the place. I can find plenty and plenty of pledges that sold for well above what people paid for them, and I can also find pledges that sold for a little bit less than what people paid for them. I think this is one that if you are getting it, and if you find it's not for you, there's a decent chance you can get most of your money back, if not all of your money back. Again, I found enough pledges that definitely sold for above what they paid for it, and there's not a ton of availability that I think this is a game that overall has held its value, while there also definitely are people who have said, hey, you know what, I'm just going to sell it for like $100 off what I paid for it and call it a day, and those things likely turned around quickly. So I think overall you're pretty safe, but not 100% guarantee on that one. That's going to be Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice Apocalypse Expansion. From there, we're going to move on to Command of Nature. 7,194 backers, $647,000 raised, 16 days to go. This is a deck building system coming to you from Unstable Unicorns from Rami Batty. The last game going to be Casting Shadows, and Command of Nature has you choosing an element and then figuring out, deck building around those elements as you go head to head in this experience. It's going to, of course, feature a ton of ridiculous things like these acrylic standees over here, and if you watched my Casting Shadows unboxing, you'll have a good idea of just what kind of crazy stuff you can get in this game system. That's in addition to the gameplay exclusive content, all those things, but it's effectively a deck building system. It's a deck building system. You're going to be building your deck, going head to head. I'm trying to scroll down to get to some of the pictures you can see over here. How to play. Like, these are the 4 different elements you can be going through. But then as far as the expansion, as far as what the optional pledges, what am I saying? As far as the pledge levels are, sorry, I'm just losing my words over here. We have $39 for the Kickstarter exclusive edition. We have $119 for the deluxe bundle, which will be giving you these extra stuff over here. So these extra things, the card sleeves, the Kickstarter exclusive elemental playmats, and the Kickstarter exclusive and the 4 acrylic standees. And then for $49, we're also going to get the various the vinyl figures as well as that on top of everything else. You get these as well. And then if you go to the various add-ons and all that, you can buy some of these things separately. You can buy various plushies, all these various things as far as how to get your stuff in the game. This is very typical for their crowdfunding campaigns. Their crowdfunding campaigns are like, here's a Kickstarter exclusive version of the game. They'll give you more characters, more stuff, a few more extra contents for the game experience you're signing up for. And then very quickly it jumps up to like, here's all the completely premium over-the-top stuff you can get in terms of plushies and who knows what for the game. There's a lot to scroll through over here. I'm not giving it an absolute ton of time, but some of these things are pretty cute to look through. But yeah, that's very typical for what they sell over here. Just a whole lot of ways to spend money on this game. As far as should you back or should you not, I will say their games are a mixed bag. I've definitely enjoyed their games to a large extent, but I don't think their games are incredibly well rated. I think Casting Shadows, the most recent one, is currently a 6.6 on Board Game Geek, and I think a lot of that seems to be based on concerns over the balance and the actual how much focus was on the game versus how much focus was on the absolute premium sellingness of the game, which is a different conversation. So I don't know how that's going to hold true for Command of Nature as well. I would say that in general, while I've enjoyed Unstable Unicorns games, I have not enjoyed them to the point that I think of them as being amazing experiences. I think of them as being very good to play with my kids' experiences and their IPs and art and situations that they like over there. So I'm interested in the game for sure, but I'm also not interested in the game from the stance of playing it with my game group. I'm interested from the sense of playing with my kids, and that might be the best way to walk into these kinds of experiences. Past that, as far as will it hold its value, generally their games have done pretty decently. There's a lot of demand for this stuff, and if you have the Kickstarter edition of the games, there is enough aftermarket demand. This is a popular company, Unstable Unicorns. They make they're responsible for Tea Turtles as well. They just make a ton of stuff, both in the gaming world as well as the attire world, and therefore they have a very loyal, passionate fan base, which is why this is at $647,000 on this game, 7,200 backers, again, doing tremendously well, and that tends to carry over to second market. So whether it's a game for you or not, it's a slightly different question. Whether it'll hold its value, likely yes on most of the exclusive stuff. From there we go to French Quarter, Let the Good Times Roll and Write game. 988 backers, $27,000 raised. I didn't even know this was launching. It wasn't on any of my lists, but this popped up over here. It's from the designers of Motor City, from Three Sisters, from Fleet the Dice game. It's from that trio. It's from Motor City Games, and this is their 4th Roll and Write game. Well, technically it's the designer's 4th Roll and Write game. It's the company's 3rd Roll and Write game, but this is French Quarter. This is going to be taking you through French Quarter, through New Orleans, as you watch the parade wander from location to location, as you check off various boxes, trying to figure out which various locations to go through and how to get a variety of bonuses as you move around from street to street, trying to, again, just be mindful of scoring that second line, be mindful of scoring the various, having many houses along the parade route as possible, even as you go through multiple areas trying to achieve various bonuses. There's going to be these different areas you're going to be moving up the track. That's going to affect your scoring modifier for each region, but also giving you a variety of bonuses as you go through it. This is very typical for the genre of game. They have just roll and write goodness, where you just do this, which gives you that, and you keep unlocking more and more things as you go through the experience. There's going to be the umbrellas you slowly collect and trading those in for kind of wild actions, getting extra check marks here and there whenever something isn't the exact situation you want. There's going to be performers. You're trying to collect sets of performers to get tons of extra points there as well. Just again, points left, right, and center as you go through the experience, and you trying to figure out your unique pathway of which action cards you're going to select as you roll the dice, assign them to the cards, which action card will you select, what the symbols on those cards are, how you're going to move around from location to location, and get as many points as possible in the French Quarter. Lots of things going on, and then they have a mini expansion as well, the tourism expansion as well over here. I think they have the mayor expansion. They have a bunch of things over here, different stuff you can go on to give you more little tweaks or things you can do in the game experience. For the pledge levels over here, you're looking at one primary pledge level, which is going to be the French Quarter Kickstarter Edition for $29. This is going to be giving you the Kickstarter bonus content, the achieve stretch goals, and the French Quarter Kickstarter Edition over here. In general, for these games, as far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? 25th Century generally does distribution for their games. I don't know if it's going to be holding true here or not. I assume it will. In fact, actually, I know it will because I'm seeing over here 20th Century on the actual box. I missed that earlier. It's actually on the box over here right now, so I assume they already have plans to go through them, which means if your goal is just to get your hands on the game, you can wait. There's no rush. You'll be able to get your hands on it later. But if you want to get that extra Kickstarter exclusive stuff over here, the Kickstarter bonus tourism expansion, then that's going to be the way to get it over here on the campaign, or possibly in future campaigns and all of that. That's going to be French Quarter. Let the good times roll. Let the good times roll and write game. If you have liked any of their games, I will say that I have liked all of their games to slightly different levels. I have not yet played French Quarter. I should have coverage up of this one before the campaign ends. When I heard that, as soon as I saw the campaign, I reached out. I was like, I like all your games. Can I please cover this for the Kickstarter campaign? It's not a guarantee I'll like the game, but I like their games are similar enough that I'm confident in this without having played it, but they're also different enough that I still own all three of their games, and I assume I'm going to own the fourth. I've also read the rules for this one, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to play. We'll talk more about it next week. I'll have an update at some point, or a video at some point. I don't know. We'll figure it out. That's going to be French Quarter from Motor City Games. Then we have over here, we have Micro Architects from Thistroy Games, 531 backers, 22,000 euro raise. This is the next, micro game from Thistroy Games. They're famous for Micro Cosmos over here, and Micro City have done fairly well in the past, and they have Micro Architects as their newest game. In this game system, you're basically going to be drafting various buildings in order to accomplish a variety of goals. Let's see if we can scroll down over here. Let me see if we can just scroll down over here. Because you're basically going to be, here we go. Pick the best building for your city, drafting the various buildings in the game as you try to achieve certain requirements on a variety of cards in order to score as many points as possible in this small city builder game. There's going to be a few modules as well. There's going to be the residence and events modules. If you want to get this over here, it includes two exciting modules, residence events. These modules seamlessly integrate into the game, enhancing the already engaging gameplay mechanics while offering new avenues for the game. Shipping on this one's going to run you, 15 euro for the USA over here, although 5 euro for Zone 0, but 15 euro for Zone A if you're in the US. And again, check your check your own things as you go through this. And the actual game as well is going to be 30 euro, which basically unfortunately puts that in one of those places where the base game is fairly reasonably priced, but then you throw on that extra, like 1.5 times the price in order to get to the shipping as well, which is a big factor over here. But otherwise, that's Micro Architects. We have 15, and we have the all-in, which will give you the playmat as well in case you want to get that. So another 20 euro there, which will run you around 65 euro. So overall, Micro Architects is a small box game that the biggest problem I have is just the shipping. It ultimately takes a little bit of the reason to jump in on this one out of the picture. It's a small box game, small box price, and then boom, shipping. And it is funded, so it's still doing well over there. Again, their last games have done fairly decently and have definitely had an audience as well. So Micro Architects is going to be a draft your buildings through the city, trying to get as many points as possible in this game. We have Monsters of Loch Lomond coming up next with 406 backers, $9,800 raised, 25 days today, 25 days to go. Monsters of Loch Lomond is a love letter adjacent game as you try to figure out how to, have your own face down cards in front of you, as you try to figure out how to ultimately discover the monsters around you and slowly take them out through the card play in the game. Over here, this game is a resounding yes from everyone in our family. Our daughter wants to be one of the games we have at our wedding in October. It gave us a leveled up love letters vibe, which is very compelling. If you look at the cards, you'll get that kind of sense from it. Selkie, swap a card with an opponent, peek at both cards. Kelpie, blindly swap a card from your clan with a card from one of your opponents. So it has that kind of card-based interplay. Now, depending on how well that's balanced and managed, I can very much see that love letter comparison. Ultimately, the question in any of these game experiences is it just pure chaos and card play, or is it a very intricate system that kind of really works and gives you the opportunity for strategic play within the slightly chaotic card play that goes on? The art and assets over here, though, look amazing. I can see why this game has done fairly decently. And again, with 400 backers, $9,800 raised, it's fairly decent, especially considering the price point. And some of the art, I can see why. I can see the appeal. We have the lake monster here, we have the witch, but all that art just just really pops for the game. For the game, it's going to be on you €17 for the game, $19 for the game, Monsters of Loch Lomond over here, and then, you know, 35 if you want 2 standard editions, all of that if you want to get more for it. But over here, $19, not a crazy price point at all for the game experience, and then obviously shipping as well, take into account that. But that's basically Monsters of Loch Lomond. Should you back it, should you not? Will it hold its value? I would say as far as holding its value, I'm skeptical it will. It's reasonably priced for what you're getting over on crowdfunding, but then once you factor in shipping, it's not reasonably priced compared to what a game of this size and scale costs in retail. So I'm skeptical it'll hold its value, but I think the big thing is ultimately this might be a hard game to get your hands on, and if you like that art, if you like that love letter vibe, with only 470 backers currently, and yes, of course, I know it will raise before the end of the campaign, but I don't know exactly where it'll go. I think this is going to be a harder one to track down, and so if you are interested in it, this might be your only chance to get it. And again, art looks beautiful. I'm very intrigued by it. But that's Monsters of Loch Lomond. Then we have Studium No Exit. This is coming to you from Watchtower Gaming. 927 backers, $224,000 raised, 25 days to go. Studium No Exit is another, I don't even know what to call this. And the next Ann's Trespass Odyssey, the next Kingdom of Death monster. That's not meant to be hyperbole. I take it back. That means if you'll see. I mean, as I scroll through the page, you'll see why I'm saying that. We're combining a high price point, artistic vision, with a large degree of story. I highly recommend watching this video. If you are in any way interested in this game, you should watch this video. Although if you're currently not interested in this game and not interested in learning more, then you shouldn't. You should just skip this, move on to the next campaign. I'll just wait here. If you did choose to stay and you want to watch the rest of the video, I recommend watching that 5-minute video over there for that game. It's going to run you $200 for the base game, which is why I kind of caution you to, like, you know, possibly skip if you're not interested in. And you'll notice there's only 26 backers there because most people who are getting this game are spending more than $200. They're spending $300 on the game. 184 people are spending $300, and then the $460 with 127 people, and then the $200 early bird. Fine, we do have 481 backers from the early bird, so more people are getting it than I initially saw over there. But Studium No Exit is going to be giving you a I don't even know what the story of this is. The Studium, some sort of school or situation where you have all these captive students and whatnot, and they're all trying to, well, not necessarily, they're all you. The ones you are playing as are in some way trying to escape or go through it, and you're encountering horror after horror and mini boss and the larger bosses as you go through it. This game is going to be again, I don't know how to describe it. It's going to be a degree of dungeon crawler, a degree of narrative exploration, taking down various monsters, exploration, lots of fun things going on. You can check this one out over here. There's lots to check out. Again, I highly recommend watching the video. This is a very intricate system that seems to have a huge focus on the story, on the character development, on the growth through it. As you wander down this hallway, as you open up hall after hall, as you deal with the various engagements, so you have that combination of like opening up a hall, being in a room, and then figuring out what kind of choice you have to make. As you draw these engagement cards and make different choices, like, you know, do you deal with watching the person have his flesh and face torn off because he's going through some sort of ritual, or do you try to step in and intervene? Having those choices as you go through the game is going to have a large degree of what's the right word for it? It's story. It's got a good story. It's got a good story or vibe. Not say story, but vibe. Atmospheric. It's atmospheric. But seriously, watch the video, the 5-minute video they have on the page, and you'll very much see that atmospheric sense as you go through it. Past that, you'll have characters, you'll have upgrades, equipment, you'll be leveling them up in different ways across the course of the campaign. Lots of things going on in Studium No Exit. It's a whole lot of game for not a cheap price point, to be very clear, not a cheap price point, but it's one of those games that kind of has that whole, it kind of has that audience of people who are looking for a Kingdom of Death monster experience, looking for an Ann's Trespass Odyssey experience, and this is another one in that vein on Kickstarter, on crowdfunding. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? Short answer is, I think so. I think it'll be fine, but I'm not confident. This is clearly a very premium experience, and it's one of those experiences that is leaning into that audience, and I think will develop and pull that audience from that pool. And if it's halfway decent, if it does a good job, then it's going to attribute that buzz going forward. So I think that for me, this one kind of falls into the category of one that I think will hold its value, but I can't say it confidently. It's definitely expensive enough that I'm not willing to say it confidently at all. That's going to be Studium No Exit. From there we have Loam from Cardboard Revolution. $11,529 raised so far, 232 backers, 26 days to left. Loam, 26 days left on the campaign. Loam is a game of, well, first of all, gorgeous artwork in clay, card art, and sculptures. Basically, the creator over here, or who they have somebody who created these clay structures for all the cards of art, and then obviously puts them in photos and whatnot. But it's a set matching game of building out healthy soil. So you try to use the various cards you have to play cards, to rearrange things. To basically, you're just gonna be playing these various cards. The input input cards. You're playing input cards every single round across 3 rounds of play. Game plays fairly quickly. It's a very fast-paced game as far as getting the cards out, building on top of the creatures, and having those elements of the various things so you have a proper ecosystem in play as you go through them. That's going to be Loam. It comes with, with a full solo mode as well, and you do have the opportunity to play it online right now if you want. You can go to screentop.gg over here to play through the game and get a sense for it and see if it's something that you'd be interested in as you go through it. As far as the pledge over here, get Loam over here is going to run you $40, which I think is expensive for the game. That's the big one of those big aspects where at the end of the day, similar to what was it? What was the earlier one we saw? The lab over here, similar to the lab over here, at a certain price point, all you have in a game for a bunch of cards for a game, you're always going to price people out to an extent. I think the gorgeous art and the very unique art is pulling people in as well, which is why I think they're funded and doing fine. And it may be a game for you or not, but it's also expensive for a game that's a small box and a ton of cards through it. That's going to be Loam from Card Revolution, currently on Gamefound, currently funded, and moving on. We have lastly, this is the last game for today. We have Biohack. Create mythical creatures as mad scientists. 962 backers. $87,000 raised. Biohack is going to have various scientists trying to create mad creatures. It's kind of based on Wingspan and Terraforming Mars, but also I get vibes of mutants from Lucky Duck Games as well. Coming from Uchibayo Korea Games over here. This is going to be the same company that brought you Aqua Garden. I think it's called Aqua Garden, and the other one. A bunch of these artsy games that are hard to get your hands on outside of Kickstarter and the secondhand market. But Biohack is going to have you as players trying to create these various creatures utilizing the various symbol matching over here. Again, the Wingspan Earth and Wingspan Terraforming Mars and Mutants is the kind of vibe I'm getting from this game. But it's going to run you $53 for the basic pledge and then $80 for the Biohack Complete pledge. We have 26 backers for the basic, and we have 902 for the Biohack Complete pledge, and then there's group pledges as well if you want to get in on that. But overall, again, the art looks great, the presentation looks great. Their games in general have a large following and have done fairly well as far as reviews, as far as holding their value. Speaking of which, as far as holding their value, hard to say for sure, but in general, their games have done surprisingly well, and a big part of that is their reputation and the fact that their games are hard to get. If you want the game, it's Kickstarter, the secondhand market. They're usually not easy to get your hands on outside of where they are. Outside of, I believe, Japan. I'm not sure, but overall, yeah, I think these games will do a decent job holding their value. It's just primarily because they are just hard to get your hands on. That's going to be Biohack, and that is our last game, which means it's Picks of the Week. Time for Picks of the Week over here, and we have 2 Picks of the Week as usual. In Picks of the Week, I usually pick 2 games. I pick a game that I think is the most likely to hold its value, and then I pick a game that is my personal interest pick of the week. For most likely to hold its value, I am going to go with Studium No Exit over here. Not a guarantee, but I think this kind of game generally has done well, and I think this does come across as a premium experience that is being handled and created well, and I think there's a lot of passion behind this project, and that I haven't seen a crowdfunding campaign that looks like this kind of vibe that hasn't managed to pull that kind of hype and buzz after the fact, and maybe this is the first, but I think it'll hold its value. And as far as personal interest pick of the week, I'm going to go with Into the Godsgrave. And I had a hard time choosing between this and Assassin's Creed Apocalypse, because I love Assassin's Creed Apocalypse, but this is an expansion, and this is something new, and I have Assassin's Creed Apocalypse already, so Into the Godsgrave is going to be my personal interest pick of the week. I really enjoy this game, and I'm excited to dive back into it and go through it, and overall, just highly recommend it as a very solid game. As someone who's a fan of Destiny, as someone who wasn't a fan of Lord of the Rings Journey to Middle-earth, Into the Godsgrave very much scratches that itch for me. Which brings us to the upcoming campaigns for next week. Upcoming for next week, we have the following. We have Ice Limited, This Way to the Future from This Way Games, launching on Gamefound. I had a chance to play the original campaign for the Kickstarter campaign they had on this one, and I really enjoyed this one. I think it's very cool, very solid game. I think there's a lot of fun things going on in it, and it's just very, very unique as far as the general components you have to play. Literally, you're going to have this giant board that you're kind of, not that one over there, you have a giant board you're trying to put all these various tokens in. I'm trying to scroll and I can't find it. It's somewhere. They changed up the page. It's like over here. I don't know. Let's see if we scroll through. Nope. They got rid of this over here. You can have this board over here, and you're literally picking up the pieces as you go through it. Very, very well done. I really enjoyed this one, and it's also incredibly unique. And then launching over on Kickstarter, we have AEG doing the expansion extravaganza. Expansions and base games, it looks like, for Tiny Towns, for War Chest, for Space Base, and then my personal favorite, for Cubitos as well, launching over on Kickstarter. And with that, we're going to call it a wraps. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of you. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one. My boss told me that as a security guard, it's my job to watch the office. I'm on season 6 and loving it, but I'm not sure what it has to do with security.